Hi folks, in this video I'll demonstrate how to deploy our vanilla Django application onto Heroku's hosting platform. So we go to our course website and drop down to the Heroku section. We're essentially going to go through these steps here. I've already created an account, a free account on Heroku, and this is what it looks like when I log in. And I've already installed the command line tool. So for my Mac, I ran this command, and depending on your Windows or Linux, there's other instructions for those operating systems. So we're basically going to start here. We're going to deploy our Django application onto Heroku following their tutorial. Then we're going to modify application to work with how Heroku is expecting to receive containers. And then lastly, we'll integrate Postgres with our Django application. All right, so let's start here. So first thing we gotta do is log in. And it'll be pull up the terminal. We'll log in to the command line and open up a tab for us to confirm that we want to log in. I'm thinking because I'm logged in, it's not asking for a credential, but if you're not already logged in on the browser, it might ask you for your credential. So here, the command line is logged in as my username, my account. And because we're using Heroku's container deployment strategy, we need to also log into Heroku's container registry. This is where we'll be pushing our images, which will kick off the deployment. Here is an example app that would work with Heroku, but we're not going to use that. We're going to use our vanilla application. And then we're going to create our Heroku application. If we just ran this, it'll auto-generate a name for us. But in our case, we're going to specify our own name. So let's say Heroku demo. And I guess all the names is our globally namespace, so we just have to pick something unique. Okay. So this is where our app will eventually reside on this URL. And Heroku also supports a Git version where you can push source code and it'll deploy your source code instead of containers. So that's what that's for. Okay. And if we're to navigate here and refresh, we should see our new app listed on our page. Okay. So we're going to use these two commands a lot, pushing and releasing. So if you remember what we did for Docker Hub, we downloaded the image and then so that's kind of this step where we're going to build the image locally on our development machine and then push it to Heroku's container registry. So Heroku has our container image. And then the next step when we were using Docker Hub was first we downloaded the image, then we had to run containers, spin up containers off of that image. And this command will do the same thing. So it'll tell Heroku to spin up new containers based on the image that we just pushed. And that's when Heroku is actually kind of running your container. So let's do that. So here it quickly built because the image is already built on my local machine, and now it's pushing the image. The first time it pushes, it's pushing all of the image that all of the layers of the image, including the layers in our Python. But after the initial push, everything will be cached. So the subsequent pushes, all these other layers here should be cached, and we'll only be pushing the changes that we apply. So we will be doing these two steps quite often. As we make changes, we need to push the new images up and then run the new images. So I'm going to stop the video here to save on some time and pick it up once this process is done. Okay, we've finished pushing our image to Heroku. So this is what it'll look like when it's done. And we are going to run the next step of releasing the image, which pretty much tells Heroku to run the image, spin up a new container based on the image, and then run it. And here it's done running it. And lastly, Heroku has this command to open up the web page to our app. So your app should have a URL similar to this one. But because we haven't modified the application to work with Heroku yet, the application won't really work. And here you see that we've deployed it. And there's a few ways to kind of troubleshoot errors on Heroku. The first way is what this error message says. You take a look at the logs. So we do Heroku logs. It'll show you the latest logs. And sometimes it's useful to kind of follow or tail the logs. So if there's new entries to the log, the screen will automatically update instead of you having to continuously run the command. So with this, it's going to take up my entire screen. And I want to kind of have the logs shown alongside with the commands I run. But VS Code only allows me to split vertically, and which doesn't allow the logs to display as nicely. So I'm going to use a screen multiplexer called tmux, and there's a few others out there. So this will allow me to split the screen horizontally, and then I can tail the logs on top here, and then run some commands to try to troubleshoot and basically to kind of push the container and release it. And Heroku also provides a web interface, so you can interact with your container. So here you'll notice that it's spinning it up. And this will be, this container that we're in will be the container that's running on Heroku's servers. So it does take a while since it's remote. Okay. So to get to this, I guess I can just close it out, is through this more button, run console, you can click bash and then click the run button. And we can do the same thing on the command line. Heroku run bash, and they'll drop us into a container on Heroku server, the container that Heroku thinks it should be running. And it does take a while again because it has to spin it up and then make a remote connection. So between the logs and these interactive consoles, you should be able to troubleshoot most of the errors you encounter on Heroku. So again, that's our container. And so now we kind of have an app going on Heroku. And if we were to look at our next step, we have to modify our application to work with Heroku. So this page has some steps on getting the Django application to work on Heroku. There's some more tutorials. I couldn't find a real good tutorial, so the next steps will be kind of a hodgepodge of some things I learned or knew from prior experience. But yeah, there's this. I was hoping Heroku would have a more complete tutorial. So short of that, I'll just glue some things together here.